Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's look at some stocks on the move today in Europe. We're joined by Bloomberg's equities reporter, Sam Onsted. Good morning. So we've had a really mega day for earnings in Europe and a lot of big banks, UBS, Barclays, Santander, some breaking records.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've been watching the bank earnings season, if you are so inclined, both from the US and then through Europe, if you have an investment bank, the first quarter was very, very good for equities trading. So Societe Generale, very, very strong. Barclays as well, the most revenue in the equities trading section since 2022. So overall, you're seeing all that volatility that we got in the first quarter did very, very well. The question is that going to continue? And remember that this quarter only comes up to the end of March. So this is before the turmoil that happened at the beginning of April and has sort of continued through April so far. So the likelihood is that certainly on equities trading in particular, and also fixed income, because bond trading, really picked up at the start of the month, you may well see this repeat over the course of the rest of the year.
Now to energy, we've had TotalEnergies, Equinor as well. I was speaking to the CEO earlier who was trying to put on a brave face, and it seems Total trying to do the same despite this horrible outlook for oil. Yeah,
so earlier in the week we had BP out, right? And BP sort of did, I think, what most people would be expecting oil companies to do at the moment, which is to pull back. And BP obviously have their own problems, but they're pulling back a little bit. Share buybacks cut. TotalEnergies, no. Share buybacks kept the same. Outlook still a little bit weaker, but now those share buybacks are coming out of debt, and the debt went up a little bit. So I think what you're seeing today, Total shares down about 3.5%. I think what you're seeing today is a little bit of concern that may not be sustainable over the long term, because if that is coming out of the debt, it may well be that they have to rethink that strategy as the year goes on. But obviously we'll have to see what happens with particularly oil prices and then the macro picture too.
Traders may be thinking they're dangling a carrot they can't afford.
Yeah, I mean, very possibly. I mean, you're seeing a lot of oil companies retrench, mostly because of uncertainty, but you've seen the oil price come down a little bit. The fundamentals of that market have weakened a bit. So the fact that they're sticking with what they were planning to do is certainly causing a little bit of concern this morning.
Thinking about music and whether you subscribe, how you stream, it's hugely important for Universal Music. Getting a shot of espresso today.
Indeed, yes. So Universal Music shares up about 6% when I got up from my desk. Very strong subscription revenue. So we actually had results out yesterday in the US from Spotify, and they were a little bit disappointing, but subscriber numbers were still going up. So a little bit behind expectations, but they were still going up. What you're seeing with Universal Music is that subscription revenue that they have been pulling in is getting stronger and stronger. As you kind of alluded to there, Sabrina Carpenter, Kendrick Lamar, both very, very popular.
I love the fact that you've glossed over the issue that I probably don't know which musician wrote that song, but anyway.
Well, let's assume that you do, Carol. I'm going to assume that you do. I look at you and I see a Sabrina Carpenter fan. Okay. But very, very strong results there from Universal Music. So, and because their expectations are a little bit lower than Spotify, they're getting a positive reception for it.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.